long way in our series of Poets and Poetry by Indira. And we are very proud to now bring before you the 25th episode. It's an episode with a difference, because for once we are taking a poet, a Tamil poet, in a translated version. So enjoy the episode and give us your feedback, and please keep on watching the series every alternate Friday. See you!
The Tamil language, a classical language and one of the oldest languages of the world. When one thinks of its literature, we have to go back to its Sangam literature, roughly translated as poetry of the noble ones. A school of thought believes that Sangam literature dates back to almost 300 BC. Lost for centuries, it was finally discovered as late as the 19th century. I must mention the Nayanmars and Alvars, or the Shaiva and Vaishnava saint poets, before I take the time machine and a giant leap to reach the 20th century and our age of Subramaniya Bharathi.
The poet Subramaniya Bharathi was actually born just to Subramaniya. Winning a prize at a competition, the king of Etaipuram gave him the title Bharati, which is another name for Saraswati. Long before independence, he could sing with gay abandon, Aduvome, Palli Paduvome, Ananda Sudandiram, Adaindu Vittom, Endru. Let's sing and dance. Born a Brahmin, he did not believe in the caste system and fought for the Dalits by even performing the Upanayinam. Some of his greatest songs are Kuyil Paatu, Panchali Shabadam, Kannan Paatu, etc. His poems were set to raga and sung at all those meetings in pre-independence India. What a great poet he was. The poem today is Achamillai Achamillai Achamillia. Remember, many poets down the ages have not given a title to their poems. So the first line of the poem becomes the title. I want you to remember, dear friends, that Subramaniya Bharathi died in 1921. So he lived during that period when the independence struggle had already begun. Remember, I told you, his poems were sung, and the British looked with awe at his poems because they encouraged the idea of freedom. In fact, at one stage, he had to flee to Pondicherry, which was under the French then. Why am I saying all this? Because the poem is about what he is not afraid of. So the refrain goes, Achamillai Achamillai Achamillia, Ichagatellorum edirthu ninra podilum, Achamillai Achamillai Achamillia. Many of you may recall Tagore's very famous song, Akla Chalo, Walk Alone. So the poet says in the first line and the second line actually, even if the whole world is against me, I don't care. I am not scared. Tuchchamaga enni nammai dooru cheida podinum, even if people think of me as being useless and leave me alone. Pichche vaangi unnum vaalkai petra vittilum, even if I have to beg and live. Even if I lose all my friends. I wish I could read the entire poem to you in Tamil, because there is such a musicality even when it is a kind of a protest poem. And I'm not reading to you every alternate line, which is Achamillai Achamillai Achamillia. Kachan in the Kongai Madar Kangal Vishu Podilum. Even if there are women who try to tempt me, I am not scared. Nachevayil Kodanda Nanbaruti Podilum. Even if my greatest friends were to give me poison, Achamillai Achamillai Achamillia. Pachayula aninda ver padaigal vanda podilum. Even if army after army comes to attack me. And he gives the dress of green. I'm not sure which country at that time, because remember, I'm talking of the 1920s. It must be some European army. because I've already told you we were still not an independent nation. Even then, I am not scared. And my favorite line is the last but one line, where he says, Uchimida vaanirindu vilginra podilum. Even if the skies were to fall on my head, can anything be more frightening? Achamillai Achamillai Achamillia. What courage, what positivity this poet could bring to his poem. Simple poems, poems which could be set to tune, poems which appealed to the masses. And remember, we credit Bharati with having brought poetry into the common Tamil language. No wonder we revere him even 100 years after his death. What a poem that has been. Achamillai, Achamillai. He goes on and on. There's no fear. I'm not scared of anything. Isn't there a kind of hyperbole? You remember the figure of speech where there is exaggeration? That's what it is. He talks about armies. He talks about poison being offered to him. He talks about the sky falling on his head. You can notice that there is hyperbole all through the poem. Another figure of speech that we see is repetition. When you want to emphasize, and therefore the refrain, every second line is Achamillai, Achamillai, Achamillai. What happens when we listen to a poem in another language? I guess our thoughts run to read other poems. But then we have to remember that the poem we just heard was in the Tamil language. I would invite you to make use of all the translations that are available. And remember, when we read a poem in another language, we move into another totally different cultural context probably. And remember, this is 100 years old, long before independence was achieved. So happy reading, not only of Tamil literature, but of literatures around the world.